Hello. I'm going to be talking about dating and romance. How am I planning to cover this topic? I'm mostly going to go over the challenges I face with dating and the pathways I see to getting what I want. So, this is so incomplete. Sure, I've had a sizable chunk of time to at least think about romance and dating, but my actual experiences are rather limited. There isn't a happy ending or closure yet to this story. And for reference, we'll round up and say I'm about 23 right now. Close enough. So maybe I'll get a happy ending or closure sooner. Maybe not. I don't know. And I think it's hopefully it adds to this video at this moment in time. I'm gonna give a hot take here. So, I think therapy being mainstream is obviously very good. Like, a lot of people should be in therapy and it shouldn't be stigmatized, and all of that is great. But then I fear it's kind of creating an issue where people don't want to talk about those scary and difficult conversations with their friends. And a lot of people have some demons or whatever that they don't want to talk about with their friends. So everyone just suffers alone, or at least they don't know who else is suffering because we kind of gatekeep certain conversations that get outside of what we consider safe or normal. I guess I'm implying that what I'm about to say might be a little bit outside of what I think is safe or normal or in bounds, or what I think other people think is safe, normal, and bounds. So this would just be my perspective and opinions on commentary on my dating and romantic life. And after putting this together and thinking a lot of stuff through, I realize I'm not going particularly deep anywhere. So maybe more specific topics could be a follow-up video if anyone wants that. But yeah, I suspect it will be quite clear how giftedness and neurodivergence affects my perspective. So I'm kind of just going to go talk about my perspectives. But I couldn't tell you where the line is on what's me, what's just like intelligence, and what instincts I have are spot on, or what I'll quickly be proven wrong on. And really, I hope that makes this all the more useful and interesting to you all, the incomplete picture. And fortunately or unfortunately, at the moment I'm single, so that I think that helps me to stay neutral because I don't really have anyone in mind as I bounce around these topics and muse about what could happen in the future. Looking, we're 3 minutes in. With that out of the way, let me go ahead and dive in. So I guess I'll start by talking about a mental stimulation. So right now, I'd say I get the type of mental stimulation I want out of a conversation a couple times per year. It's pretty memorable when it happens, but yeah, that doesn't happen very often. This is someone that's a fairly social person with like friends and all. So mental stimulation though is one of those things where in my social circles, like a lot of people talk about it and want it and feel they're not getting enough. So maybe some of what we want isn't as realistic as mental stimulation, or maybe we don't do a good job receiving it, like it's there, but we just can't, we're not experiencing it as much as we should. I'm not too sure. But anyways, I want someone that consistently is able to provide that for me, a woman that does that. And I want to have the conversations where I'm on my feet and taken through topics I don't think about very often or otherwise have never gotten to think about at all. Now, of course, it's not like I want that all the time. I certainly want to relax a lot, maybe even most of the time, but some mental stimulation from the conversations. And if I'm being honest, I haven't really felt that at all in my dating life yet, at least not directly from the women I've dated. Mental stimulation, as far as like how to define that, I would just say like I want to feel on my tippy toes and I want to be uncomfortable within the conversation and have to think a lot before sharing something or answering a question versus just kind of being able to autopilot my way through most of it. Again, just some of the time, not all the time. So a little bit here or there, but yeah, I don't get that very often. necessarily. And I don't know, because some of it, and I might talk about this later, but there's a little bit of an issue where I think a lot of men are intimidated by the intelligence of women. So smarter women don't necessarily present themselves as being as smart as they are, and aren't going to go into a conversation and really try to hammer you, especially not like early on, because there's like negative stigmas around like women being intelligent, and some guys fear that. It makes them insecure. So I feel like you don't necessarily. I don't always know immediately how smart a woman is. I mean, there's times I've underestimated women, underestimated men too, but I'm only dating women. So yeah. So anyway, like a lot of people find the topic a little bit pretentious, the whole mental stimulation thing. And I guess mental stimulation is something you get a lot of other places. Obviously, you don't need to be in a romantic relationship for that. But for me, it's always felt best to kind of require that in a romantic partner. Like, of course, I'll get it other places as well. But I'm not sure my love life would feel complete if I had a partner not providing mental stimulation and I had to go seek that out in other places instead. So I guess in my mind, it's like the mental stimulation. That's something I've always really wanted to get out of a romantic relationship. So, like, this is kind of a struggle because I have a desire to go out with someone similar to me, like on the same wavelength, maybe someone even smarter than me, just to see what it's like. Like, is it the big difference maker I sometimes suspect it could be? Or is it something that doesn't actually matter nearly as much as I think it does? And without getting that mental stimulation quickly in someone, like, what would it take for me to fully shake the desire to go out with someone who was born and raised in the same world as me? Like, how hard do I have to fall for someone else just to have that desire eliminated? I'm not quite sure. So, who have I dated? Probably mostly women with like top 5% intelligence. Generally, the more, I would say, more introverted, sensitive women that, yeah, very, very book smart and good in that regard, but also the type of women that I think get a little bit underestimated, and yeah, kind of the sensitive, more introverted type. Maybe lean nerd, but not like full on nerd necessarily, but but if they wanted to be a nerd, like they could be a nerd. But yeah, I would say certainly more sensitive than me, more like obvious feelers, more um yeah, probably larger emotions and larger waves in their emotional life compared to me, or maybe just better at expressing those waves. And kind of the more um I have yet to figure out like whether or not that's necessarily a good fit. Like, should I be dating women that are more sensitive, or dating women that are maybe a little bit less sensitive? And like I probably lean less sensitive. I mean, I don't know, like if like I'm willing to put this video out there and not really be too worried about putting this out there. So I would think that would put me in the less sensitive camp. So yeah. So another thing though, I feel like I'm quite a button pusher. So like when a woman is interested in me, I would say I'm good at figuring out what she wants and how to get her to fall for me. Now, maybe some of this is women just not having all that high of standards, or at least the women I've dated. But regardless, that's how I end up feeling. And that's good and bad. Like, obviously, you need the ability to convert like to love and build attraction. But at a certain point, it's like I'm playing God if I really wanted to, especially if I haven't fallen hard for them yet myself, which I've not. Like, how hard do I try? Like, I feel like I can stay within what's honest and sustainable as far as like what I'm bringing to the table, how I'm acting, what I'm doing, and really get off to an incredibly good start. Like, I know what to say to comfort someone, how to come off as genuine, how to wiggle my way out of certain troubles when I do make mistakes, how to open up without like overwhelming someone, and how to make myself accessible, and sometimes like how to get the most, squeeze the most out of the good moments and make the bad moments affect things the least, like that sort of thing, at least early on. But I guess I haven't figured out how best to present myself. Like, what's the right balance of bringing my A+ game to build attraction in the early stages compared to being my natural self or presenting myself as my best possible self? I don't know. Like, I don't think I'd have any issue with a woman dating me and really trying to get me attracted to her and bringing her A+ game to get me to tip over and fall for her, as long as she wasn't doing it by lying or doing things that aren't sustainable. Like, obviously, you don't want to like love bomb, but just blasting off from the beginning feels like it could get dicey later on. I'm still afraid of being in the spot where like someone is super into me and I don't feel the same about them. I also think with just like romance right now, it's a little bit interesting because I feel like generally speaking, as a guy, like you have to show more first in your game, that your kind of game is getting put to the test first as far as planning dates, taking some initiative and pushing things along, moving things along. And then women, I think a lot of women would agree with this, that the women oftentimes reflect the effort that the man is putting in, and the man chases a little bit, and then the woman reflects back and does all that. So that means that, like, okay, if I'm chasing a little bit and putting in my A game, then it's gonna take some time, and then for a woman to fall for me, and then give her A game back to me. So, and it would make sense for me to not necessarily fall for someone unless they're doing certain things for me, and everything turns into, or a lot of things turn into being a two-way street. And then there's also what I think about sometimes too is like I want women that are dating me to feel pretty comfortable. But if I do that to a point, then maybe they wouldn't necessarily bring their A game, or show me kind of what they're capable of for as far as what they bring to the table. Like, if you get too comfortable, comfort doesn't always bring out the best in people. I think people tend to be the most romantic a lot of times when they're not particularly comfortable. So yeah, it's just stuff that I think about sometimes. So what I'm also working on figuring out is, hey, how many women could I be compatible with, and how should I go about looking for these women? So one perspective is saying, hey, I should be compatible with a lot of different women. I'm smart, I have a lot in my life that can focus on romantic relationships. I certainly want one. I'm flexible. There's not a ton of behaviors I actually care about that much. Like in the early going, like I'm fine paying for dates. If a woman wants this pay 50-50, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with like the more traditional chivalry, gentleman-like behavior in the early going, like holding doors or stuff like that, or texting a lot, texting a little bit, hanging out kind of a lot, hanging out not quite as much. Like, don't really care that much as long as we're building a connection, right? I don't know, maybe I don't know enough to care, but certainly right now I don't feel like I care. It's like whatever, like that's the little stuff to me. There's larger stuff that's more important. So yeah, and I guess I always tell myself like I'm someone who's willing to adapt and adjust for whatever the environment around me is. So I can make a lot of these adjustments and do this or do that without feeling like I'm compromising myself or losing myself deep down. So, and again, like based on my dating experience, I would say there's probably a handful of women out there where I'm certainly capable of doing the things to make them fall for me, desire me, want to be with me, want to put their best foot forward towards me as well, and all of that good stuff. I can get the full relationship of emotions out of them. And over time, that number should only really go up, right? Like my social skills and romantic skills should keep going up over time, or maybe in 10 years I could attract women that I would have no idea how to attract right now, at least one would think. So that leaves one significant missing ingredient from the equation, which is obviously women getting me to really fall for them. Again, I could say, hey, maybe the number is high, although it's never really happened. Like I've liked the women I've dated, but I've never fallen for them. In each case, it's easy enough to kind of understand why. Like maybe all it takes is a woman really hitting with some of each of the five love languages. Like, what are they? Acts of service, physical touch, quality time, gift giving, words of affirmation. Like you get the right, if I get the right dosage of all of them from a woman, maybe that's enough. And her really trying to understand me and what it takes to get to me, to get to this, right? And then I'll be all set. Maybe a lot of women can do that for me. I don't know. Um, but one thing I wonder though is whether I can do more in order to get women to get through to me, whether it's being a better communicator of what I really want, figuring out what I really want, figuring out what I really, really do care about. So I'd want some larger comprehensive list of, hey, this is exactly how I want to do things. And uh, yeah, I guess better communicating that, better communicating how to get through to me, and maybe managing expectations as well. So I can be a good receiver of the effort that someone puts in towards me. Um, I don't. It's hard to say how much of that is controllable. Um, because I see a lot of this stuff. I see at least the possibility that there's some malleability with this stuff. Um, and yeah, like I go back and forth on like, do you need someone on the same wavelength? Like, I feel like I'm able to get through to women sometimes without being on the same wavelength. I mean, like, it just like not necessarily, we don't have to be similar. We don't have to believe the same things or have too similar of experiences, but I can still figure out like what works and how to put on enough charm without being on the same wavelength. So in theory, it's like someone could do that for me as well. So yeah, so I guess with this approach, though, which what I've outlined, which is sort of the more mechanical, grow into a relationship and adjust to one another, not necessarily love at first sight or sparks from the very beginning, it's easy enough for me to picture it being realistic. And nowadays, I also really think it's hard to have big sparks and chemistry immediately. Like, go back 50 years, most everyone believes the same things, similar childhoods, watching the same media, interacting with the same types of people, watching the same cartoons, just less of a range of individual life experiences. But then now it's like everyone watches different things, is in their own social media bubble, very specialized type of life. Everything is so curated for the individual, not the group. So when it makes sense that you're not going to just start off exactly on the same wavelength as someone else and kind of adjust to it, So another thing, another point, like I think it's abundantly clear, based on what I've put out there, that like what I bring to the table for romantic relationships is probably going to be different than what a woman's been expecting or waiting around for. So it might take time for a woman to realize, like, hey, this relationship isn't how I thought my romantic relationship would look like. And now that's not necessarily a bad thing. And of course, I really hope it's not a bad thing for whoever I end up with or want to end up with. But that's also something I'm pondering. That it would be an adjustment process. So it's going to take a little bit of time to adjust for me and to figure out that they could be secure with me. So, if I follow all that logic, like maybe I don't need to try to focus that much on dating the top X% of intelligence or finding someone super similar to me. Like maybe take things slow and also just date around and give things time before making a decision one way or another, and being open hearted and accepting of relationships that might not bring a huge return or get to here right away, and relationships that take time for me to become sure and all that. Or I could take the other pathway and go, hey, I'm way out there. I probably need someone else that's way out there. I shouldn't pour time into relationships that I'm not sure about early on, because that would mean maybe settling for something that's not right for me. So let me instead concentrate my search towards more similar individuals that are on the same wavelength that I can become sure about fairly quickly. I don't want someone where I'm really pondering if I should be with them months after meeting and pondering how much I feel. Let me just find someone who delivers quite quickly. After all, that's how a lot of couples are. A lot of successful relationships just got off to a super quick start. So I can say, hey, like it's fine and dandy to do a lot of this stuff with adjusting everything to be relatable and intentional. Maybe just when I'm talking about making friends, but maybe for relationships, I'm dramatically overthinking all of this and should just be natural and find someone where everything works quickly. So I don't really know. Right now, I suppose I'm more pursuing the former. Like, hey, I don't need someone who understands me right away or someone super similar. I just need someone that will eventually figure out what stuff hits for me and how to get to my heart, and someone that's a positive influence for me and helps me go places with the rest of my life as well. Like someone that's conducive to an environment where I'm succeeding, and maybe I'll get into a relationship with a really good woman with strong character and emotional intelligence that just can't break through to me or really get me to tip over. And then I'll realize, hey, I just need to meet a like minded individual. That's kind of where my head's at right now, but that's very subject to change. Like, I guess, like, if I'm really looking for someone on a similar wavelength, probably either super specific online dating profile that's like, hey, I would probably literally go like, hey, I'm gifted, or list stuff and clearly just say exactly what I'm looking for. I hope you, and the super niche profile that's gonna be targeting like maybe 1% or fewer than 1% of women, versus trying to, and then maybe going online and looking different forums or different, and being more open to like something long distance and trying to cast a net super wide, versus going on a dating app and trying to come across fairly solid across the board, and then go on dates, and then with just like women that maybe aren't neurodivergent and don't have the same experience as me, but are still like, but I could still maybe be compatible with, and then yeah, so it'd be different. So it's different, like focusing on dating them and making things work with them, versus like the super specific search for someone similar. So that's what it would be. And I guess with this, let me be crystal clear. Like, what I would want most would be to not have to have some of these worries and risk overthinking. Like, I would love for a woman to enter my life that I feel sure about early on, that alleviates me of all of the concerns I've outlined in the video. But I can also see for many people that person never enters their life. Like, some of us have to adjust ourselves and be intentional in order to get anywhere. Not everything just flows, and ideally, I can be open to either pathway and kind of try to make effort on either pathway, especially while being single. And yeah, I guess the other thing then is there's this delicate balance with how I make a good first impression on a woman. Like, what I'm saying here, I don't think is too inaccessible. Like, if I knew a woman for like a couple months, like, I would have no issue showing her this exact video, um, and talking about everything in here and getting more in depth with it. But I know better than to just lead off with it. Like, this isn't what I talk about on first dates. But actually, leading off of that might not be terrible, necessarily. Like, if you're a good fit, you could probably get away with. I could probably get away with saying a lot of this. I'll close and just say I don't think that this is really too pessimistic or anything. I mean, it feels neutral to maybe slightly optimistic. Like, there are a lot of good things that I feel I bring to the table, and like good things. Like, I also feel like maybe I can be compatible with a lot of women, and I feel like I see a lot of what is going on, and the emotional intelligence and ability to provide a strong experience, I think, is very meaningful, especially if I meet the right woman. I feel like I can make almost any conversation interesting and am thought of as a strong conversationalist, and have the ability to be very present in a romantic relationship, as the rest of my life typically doesn't require like a super high amount of mental energy. And look, I think at the end of the day, it's pretty clear that a lot of my energy is going to be placed on figuring out answers to these questions and figuring out how to channel my positives effectively in order to end up in a happy, loving, fulfilling relationship. So hopefully that's enough. Um, Thank you for watching this, really. I appreciate you watching this. I'm going to be making these more regularly, I hope. I don't want to take that long of a break again anytime soon. But please share with anyone you think would be interested in it, hoping to reach out to more and more people and build up an audience over time. Feel free to comment anything. I'm pretty accessible right now. You comment something, any questions, any email, I'll answer it pretty quickly and try to give a thorough answer to the best of my ability. So yeah, so thank you so much for watching. Peace.